Good morning, everyone. My name is Jorge Medina, and we are here to give you some information, important information that will be useful to your organizations and your clients uh, in order to protect their assets, their officials, or employees. Beyond a technical opinion in a criminal standpoint of view, uh, we all know that the goal of every organization, no matter its size, is to ensure the continuity of their operations and protect their assets. Analyzing the level of vulnerability of assets will enable us to take actions to protect them and begin prepared to face any crisis, including those that could arise from a case of fraud, theft, fatal accident, accidental contamination, kidnapping, extortion, corruption, etc. To understand the relationship between asset vulnerability analysis and criminal law, we must to consider the following. The first discipline is responsible for identifying risk in organizations, depending, for instance, on the industrial area in which they operate, their location, the value of their assets, etc. And most of the crisis case involve or will involve the commission of a crime. The criminal law defines what behaviors are considered as a crime in both Mexico and the United States of America. Then, an interaction of both disciplines will help us for developing prevention and compliance plans to address potential events that may happen during the daily operation of the business. That's why we have to answer a question, reaction or prevention. Talking about criminal law in the United States of America and Mexico lead us directly to think about reactive actions rather than preventive ones. Any of the crises that could arise from criminal activities always inherently involve a reaction and probably could have been prevented. That's why we think that we must pay attention on the prevention. Today, we will not delve into the reactive actions that organizations must undertake when they become victims of a crime or are involved in the commission of a criminal conduct. We all know that an event of such magnitude necessarily entails an investigation and the filing of a complaint when one is a victim or execute a defense when one is under investigation. Today, our interest is in discussing prevention and how we can assist our organizations or clients in improving their vulnerability assessment and risk prevention efforts. That's why we invite the Safe Global Services team. They will share with us their experience in handling security incidents in both the United States of America and Mexico. The information that we will hear today will be very useful for our organizations and clients, given the expected increase in commercial activity between both countries, driven by the phenomenon known as nearshoring. I give the voice to Jorge Luis Cisneros, who hit the SAFE organization.
Thank you, Tocayo. Thank you, Jorge. Good morning, everybody. I'm Jorge Cisneros. I'm the owner of Safe Global Services. I started this company back in 2008 when all heck broke loose between the Gulf Cartel and the Zetas down in the Reynosa, Matamoros area. I was an FBI agent for 23 years, and I was assigned to the border as a border liaison officer. I had the responsibility of Nuevo León, Tamaulipas, and Coahuila at the time, and 100 miles into the border of Mexico. My job was to do investigate kidnappings, extortions, and fugitives. So I knew there was a big need when I was getting ready to leave the FBI to have a company like this basically take care of companies that were operating along the U.S.-Mexican border. I started this with just out of my house, and it's grown to, we probably have almost 1,000 employees now throughout Mexico and the United States. I have here with me two of my colleagues, Jorge Velasco, who's going to be doing our presentation today. And if y'all have any questions afterwards, I can explain a little bit more about what we do. But we have companies like H-E-B, Fendi, Christian Dior, Louis Vuitton, many, many different companies that we operate and provide security for in Mexico and the United States. Jorge, please.
Good morning, Jorge Velasco. I retired from the FBI for 21 years. I'm not used to speaking in front of a lot of attorneys. Usually the relation I have with attorneys has been adversarial in the courtroom. But today, we'll, break bread together. We're friends.
Thank you.
And when in the FBI, whenever you work cases or go undercover, you usually have a handling agent. So today I brought my handling agent, Adolfo Baeza, who, by the way, is also retired FBI, and his expertise was counterterrorism. And I just went to the restroom, and I don't know if you guys noticed that in 108, there's a conference with Maximus. That's a software Chinese company in Chicago.
Heads up.
Heads up.
They're close in here.
You like to say anything, Adolfo?
No, I just retired from the FBI after 21 years. Started the career down in South Texas, all over the United States. So it was a lucrative career. My expertise was, I worked a little bit of counterintelligence, but my expertise was undercover. So I was drawn into that world. So I did most of my career undercover work for the FBI.
He looks like anybody's uncle. That's what we.
That was my claim to fame. Everywhere I went, somebody said, "You look like my relative. You look like my uncle." So, do I look like anybody's uncle here or relative? So I fit in well in the undercover scheme.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about what is a vulnerability trait assessment, or VTA, to save some time. So VTA, and I'm sorry I have to read from the card. I know this presentation, but the first couple of slides, they were improvised. So a VTA is a process to identify and evaluate weaknesses in an organization that could potentially be exploited by various threats, including organized crime. The primary goal of a VTA is to proactively identify and mitigate security risks to prevent potential security breaches or incidents. There are 6 key aspects of a VTA: identification of a weaknesses, actively search and catalog weaknesses within the system. This can include facilitating software flaws, weak security practices, or any weaknesses that can be exploited. Assessment of impact: determine the potential impact of each identified weakness. This helps prioritize weaknesses based on the severity and potential consequences. Risk analysis: weaknesses are evaluated based on the organization's specific risk profile. We consider the likelihood of exploitation, the potential impact, and the organization's tolerance for risk. Reporting: a detailed report must be generated listing weaknesses, severity, and recommendations. The report is crucial for managers to allocate resources effectively. Remediation, what I call improving: once weaknesses are identified, organizations can take steps to fix them. This may include implementing security best practices, software patches, or investing in additional security measures. And last, ongoing monitoring. VTAs are not a one-time event. You have to regularly update or revise your security measures. So, okay, this part I know. So, the people, if you travel to different countries, I don't know if you're aware, the State Department issues 4 levels of caution. So there's and they not only for traveling in Mexico, all over the world, and it does so the level 1 exercise normal precautions, level 2 exercise increased caution, 3 reconsider travel, and 4 do not travel. If you travel a lot, I recommend that you either go to the State Department's website or enroll in the Smart Travelers Enrollment Program, and then you can receive the alerts on your phone about the ongoing threats of the countries that you travel. So you see, you have these are the 6 states that are level 4, do not travel. So we got Tamaulipas, we got Tamaulipas, which is, you know, where we're from. Level 4, you have Michoacan. That's like probably the worst, in my opinion. Colima, Sinaloa, and they just added, the last one was Zacatecas. The reason Zacatecas was added, did I get them all? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Guerrero, sorry, in Guerrero. So the reason Zacatecas was added is because you see the Pacific, all the shipments of drugs from the, especially we'll talk about the Jalisco Nueva Generación, New Generation Cartel, they have to go through the northern border. So Zacatecas is crucial for whoever controls Zacatecas, it controls the access to the drugs. That's why it was added last year. And then 7 states are level 3. You know, they're spread out by California, Sonora, Chihuahua, Durango, Guanajuato, Jalisco, Morelos. The rest of Mexico are level 2 exercise increased caution, except for 2 states which are the safest, Yucatan and Campeche. I lived in Yucatan, super nice. I haven't been there like 20 years, but I talk to people when they go and say, oh, how's Yucatan? I used to live there. I says, man, it's beautiful, so that's good to travel. Sorry. Okay, so what about the border? Mexican border states are known for proximity to the U.S., large volume of travel by people and goods, and is very lucrative illicit crossings. Okay, what's happening? The cartel infighting. So you have and this is kind of focused on the Texas border, right? So you have the Gulf Cartel fighting the Cartel del Noroeste, and Cartel del Noroeste used to be the Zetas, and now the Zetas or the Cartel del Noroeste are aligned with the Jalisco New Generation, so they're fighting the cartel. And one thing you have to know about the Gulf Cartel, they used to be one of the most powerful, but they broke, and I'll talk a little bit. They started fighting among each other. So Matamoros, which is the base where it started, is one side, and then you have Reynosa the other side, and Rio Bravo in between. So they kind of switch sides, but right now it's Matamoros, Rio Bravo, together fighting Reynosa. Okay. Okay, hopefully we can hear this video. And I love this video because this video tells you everything in 3 minutes. The entire, where we at with the violence. So hopefully we can play it. This is from Narcos, if you've seen it.
Congratulations on your win and welcome to the United States of America. Mexico is a priority for my government. There are very important issues we need to discuss.
Security is the main issue now. Drug traffickers are embedded with the corrupt structure of Mexico, and they are very well equipped. This is a critical situation. Both our countries are threatened. You need a safe border, and I need help to fight the drug traffickers. The moment I assume the presidency, I will declare war against them. I want to pacify my country, and I need you on board.
It's in our interest to work together to defeat the drug trafficking. We can supply you with the weapons. Plus, the exchange will help us overcome the current economic situation. The slowdowns have to be handled one way or another.
Nos estás cambiando las reglas del juego. Lo que ustedes quieren es lana y orden en el negocio. La frontera completa bajo nuestro control significa más lana para todos. Más lana para todos y poder absoluto para ti. Todos salimos ganando. De acuerdo. Vamos por Juárez y Nuevo Laredo. El armamento de Estados Unidos ya llegó. Cuanto antes terminemos con todo esto, mejor.
Personal, a discreción, atención, ¡full! ¡Marine, ar! ¿Visto, Efraín? ¡Cubrir!
Nos hemos convocado para informar a la opinión pública que hoy se dará el inicio de acciones estratégicas para enfrentar al narcotráfico y la delincuencia organizada. Dentro de este operativo se desarrollarán actividades de erradicación de plantíos ilícitos, establecimiento de puntos de control para acotar el tráfico de enervantes en carreteras, ejecución de cateos, así como ubicación y desmantelamiento de puntos de venta de drogas. Con un despliegue de más de 4.260 miembros del ejército, 17 aeronaves de ala fija, 29 aeronaves de ala rotativa y 246 vehículos terrestres. A ellos se unen 1.400 elementos, de los cuales 900 elementos son de fuerzas federales de apoyo, 300 elementos de seguridad regional, además de 220...
Con el gobierno de nuestro lado, ya no hay quien nos detenga.
De la Agencia Federal de
El Cano y el Chente no van a saber ni qué les pasó por encima.
Todo esto suma un total de 1.425 elementos de operación policial.
Okay, so that's 3 minutes, explains everything. So, in 2006, Felipe Calderón beats López Obrador by 1%, less than 1%. So that's why there's always the, that's why he's upset. So he, and that was George Bush in making the deal with him, but it really was the Mexican government, Felipe Calderón, with the U.S. government, and they signed the Medina Initiative. If you guys remember, the Medina Initiative came in 2008. So Felipe Calderón becomes the president, and he declares war to the cartels right away. He deploys all these troops to Michoacán, and now it's not just like cops and bad guys. Now it's military against the cartel. So now it's not just drug trafficking; it's a war between the cartels, which are very powerful, and the Mexican government. So the cartels can't. The drugs are not enough for them to be able to sustain their activity, their criminal activity. So they need soldiers, they need weapons, and that's why you see all the violence in Mexico, because it's not like we do here in the U.S. It's FBI against bad guys. Now it's like our military fighting the mafia, and there's chaos. So that's why I like this video, because it shows you in 3 minutes. So I just said that. So then the Medina Initiative was signed in 2008, 2 years or a year and a half after Felipe, and what the U.S. was doing was giving equipment, training, and intelligence, and a lot of money. So that's why you keep kind of like the Mexican presidents in line sometimes when they want to say, like López Obrador, no, I don't want the DA agents running around. But then when they start taking the money away, that's when they say, okay, let's work together. Okay, so this little chart is what we were talking about. The Medina Initiative gets signed, declares war against the cartels, and the cartels begin fragmenting, and then they start fighting among themselves. And then there's collapse of authority. You see it with Chapo, the last big one that was captured. So you take him out of the picture, and then you have different guys, the children or the uncles or the other, the consiglieres, the guys that were, they all want to run the cartel, and then they start fighting each other. So if before there was communication with a cartel, kind of like, hey, you use drugs as long as you don't kill innocent people, because really that's what happens, with the government. They say, look, do your thing, you pay us what you do, and violence minimal. So when they start fighting and there was no authority to deal with, was all hell, break loose. And you saw it with, in 2010, when Jorge left, that's when the war started with the cartel and the Zetas, and that's why the border became such a mess. And you, in case you didn't know, the cartel, Ociel Cárdenas, who became a top fugitive for the FBI, the State Department, he brought in the Zetas, which were former military, to help them keep everybody in line. So when he gets arrested, the Zetas said, hey, we can do this ourselves. We don't need the cartel. And that's why they separated, and and the Zetas were ruthless. I was in Mexico from when they killed Jaime Zapata from 2011 to 2012. And we were all over Mexico rounding up the Zetas. And we would come across videos that I'm sure you guys seen where decapitating, I mean, just brutal.
Just if I can chime in on that, Jorge Velasco was actually assigned to the investigation. If y'all remember the ICE agent that was killed on his way from Monterrey to Mexico City, and he was responsible. Jorge was responsible for capturing over 200 Zetas that were involved with that organization. So, kudos to Jorge.
Well, yes, but it was just, I mean, it was a team effort. It was customs because they had their agent, the Mexican military, the Marines and the Army were instrumental. It was a team effort, and a lot of agents in the United States were working, helping us, covering leads. Because at the same time, remember there was the great idea, whoever thought about it, the weapons to go to Mexico. What was
ATF.
no, but what was the operation?
Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious. So it was crazy that they would allow that. I was in the war room with all the ambassador and all the agencies, how we were going to tackle start arresting the Zetas and how we're going to organize, because it's also very dangerous for us. So the Mexicans don't want nothing to happen to us. And then the ATF special agent in charge gets a call, and he leaves. And I knew him. What's his name? The tall guy from Brunswick. Anyway, he leaves, and then I found out he was the guy that kind of approved the stuff in New Mexico or Albuquerque, that Fast and Furious. So the casualty of that. So this chart is from 2015. It's old, but it still pretty much gives you an idea. This is a DA chart of how the cartels are distributed. So here you only have the red, the Gulf cartel, but they are concentrated. They're powerful in that area. That's why nobody's been able to get through. La Familia Michoacana, now the Knights Templar, they tried. They were not successful. Jalisco's trying to move in. I would think that the new chart would have Jalisco a little bit bigger, and the Sonora, the orange, a little bit smaller. That's the Chapo. And then pues you have Chihuahua. That's the Amado Carrillo Fuentes. Now they call it Juarez Cartel. And the Zetas, you see them spread. They spread out after we went after them. So there's just pockets of them. And they're still very strong in Nuevo León, in Coahuila, and surprisingly, they have a big setup right here in Ciudad Victoria. Go figure, but. Okay, so this one this is one of the ones that. Discussing security or safety in commercial operations between Mexico and the U.S. is a topic that, due to numerous aspects, we won't be able to address in this presentation, so we will focus on a specific topic, the transit of people and goods. And this came out in Norte last month. You know, that's, I guess the bad guys are also getting ready for the nearshoring.
They also want to participate in the nearshoring.
These are just stats. If you compare the second quarter of this year, 23, with the last year, there were over 5,000 or 6% more thefts than last year, and that equals about 1,700 every month. So it's still very dangerous traveling on the roads for cargo. Okay. So the reason I put this one is this was the DEA about the spillover, and it came out in January 23rd. By the way, that's my birthday. I don't know, it just came out, but so the spillover became a hot topic in 2010 when the Gulf Cartel and the Zetas were fighting, because the sheriff at the time was running, and if you guys follow South Texas or South Texas is like the Valley, not Corpus Christi. They were talking about spillover, and the sheriffs wanted to get funds from the federal government. So he said, hey, there's a spillover. But the spillover we were all working was because the cartel and the Zetas, they were like a family. They lived together. So when that happened, was families against families. So they were running to the U.S. families. So we would have guys from the cartel, but they weren't coming for violence. They were coming to hide themselves. So he said, spillover. And surprisingly, not interestingly, that sheriff ended up getting arrested by us, by the Operation Panama Unit, which his son was. It was a group like the movies. There was a 6 or 7 guys that were taking drugs from the bad guys and were selling it. And and he was living with the sheriff. You know, and the sheriff, and it's a big office in Hidalgo County. He got caught with, dealing business with one of the, or taking bribes for his campaign. So ended up getting arrested. But there is no spillover. If you guys go to McAllen, Laredo, or Brownsville, you can go anywhere. I don't know Austin, but I know if I was in Houston, I worked in Dallas. There was places that I would not go because it's dangerous. But the Valley, McAllen, Brownsville, Laredo. Well, I don't know Laredo is the Valley, but very safe. And every year they come out with statistics on crimes, the FBI and Laredo. These 3 cities are always in the top 10, 150,000 plus. So, and the cost of living is the safest, yes. Oh, me quedan? Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go real quick. Okay, these are just common sense things that you already know if you travel. So I'll just go on the ones that I think we should. If you go to Mexico, I suggest you have some type of GPS tracking device in case something happens. Do not carry weapons. You know that. Even that includes ammo. Be aware of your surroundings. I always tell that to my children. You should too. Don't be on the phone and driving over there. Pay attention. Best thing you can have is your GPS and your smartphone in case something happens and we can try to find you. Minimize display of wealth. Avoid predictability. Don't be a target of opportunity. Protect personal information. This is all just common sense, but I'm just trying to, okay. Practice travel and road safety. One of the things, huh?
What is the less common percentage?
Which one?
Common sense is the less common.
Oh, yes. There was something I wanted to show you. I'm just going. This is so in case you have questions. So we have in our company, Jorge's company, we have about 3,000 customers that it's a service that we offer. This is like the pitch for our company. That we have a panic button. It's the size about like this. So if you're traveling in Mexico and you suspect somebody's coming after you, they press it. And we have a command center 24/7 with about 300 cameras, and we monitor. And then if we need to activate, we call our contacts in Mexico, and then we send a team to go try to rescue you or find out. But it happens, we don't have a lot of kidnappings. Our customers is more carjackings because they're driving and we tell them don't get off the road or don't go 7-Eleven. They do it, and so that's something that if you are interested, we offer that service and we monitor, your location.
In the area we do a lot of business with it. Reynosa, Nuevo Laredo. That's been happening more and more often these days, where we get the carjackings. They don't hurt the driver per se, but they want the vehicle. So we in the last couple of weeks we've had about 3 or 4 already. So they escalate every time there's a war or there's some kind of battle between them. They use the vehicles, they take the vehicles away. So we have that quite a bit.
So thank you. We couldn't cover everything because of time, and I mean this presentation I usually do it in 8 hours. And like I said, with lawyers I was a little nervous, but nearshoring is going to bring a lot of challenges to your companies. So, you have any questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you. It's been very insightful. With your extensive experience at the FBI related to Mexico, what would be your feeling, your take on the approach the cartels will take upon the massive opportunity of doing business in Mexico, particularly in light of the increased operations of international companies in the border, whereby some companies are using sporadic events. I can take this order. Of plant managers. Yeah, for the most part, we've seen very little interaction or threats to the management teams. Typically, they're from the U.S., let's say, or foreigners. It's bad business for the cartels to go after these guys. I don't know if you heard recently we had the incident in Matamoros, where there was 3 individuals that were killed, and they raised all kinds of heck between governments. As a result, the 5 or 6 individuals that were responsible for that kidnapping, they were all killed by the cartels. And they basically cleaned up their own people. But typically, we don't see any type of attacks on Americans or foreigners. Unfortunately, we do see problems with the Mexican nationals. They're more likely to go after a Mexican national than somebody, a foreigner. In your opinion, there's no tacit agreement of respect to not touch the Mexican nationals that work for international companies with manufacturing operations? Typically, they'll leave you alone if you're a Mexican national, typically. But we have had incidents where the Mexican national has been targeted.
But that's a good question, and I rushed through the presentation. But our suggestion is, if you travel into Mexico, always have your colors. That's the best thing you can do. Now, not your vehicle, like have a big emblem and said, no, you get, if I get stopped, I'm gonna say, look, I'm with Save Global Services, and I'm going to Maquiladora over here. That's where I work. They usually leave you alone. It's not like an agreement, but they know that targeting employees of a Maquiladora is gonna cause all kinds of problems for them. So we usually, you don't see it. It does happen, but it's not common. Also, sorry, sir. If you get stopped in Mexico, or you see you always tell them where you're gonna go. Don't lie to them, because you lie to them, they're gonna get an excuse. If you're driving and you see a checkpoint, and then you're coming along and you say, oh shit, this is not law enforcement, this is the bad guys with AK-47s, and do not try to turn around and get fancy with them. Go through it, and they'll leave you alone. But if you start running, they're gonna think you're from the opposing, and they're gonna go after you. Yes, sir.
So I've always felt safe when I'm in Monterrey, particularly in renting a car and driving. Is that still safe in Monterrey?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
There's a question over there.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Actually, a comment to that. I think for the legal community, I would be more concerned, or at least what we see, about the penetration on the vendor side, particularly key vendors. So doing more extensive due diligence on key vendors specifically, because that's where we generally see organized crime penetrate from multinationals operating from Mexico.
Yes, and that's gonna be hard, but you do your due diligence, because they have their tentacles everywhere. So the cafeteria person that's selling the food, they're going to be approached because, hey, if you want to be selling, so that happens a lot. So even with your due diligence, you may get them, but that's just the way they do business over there.
We've been tasked to do investigations on that, trying to see if the vendors are basically paying kickbacks to the person in charge of supplies or purchasing. And those are very hard cases to prove up, because the vendor typically will not talk to you. We have to have some hard proof before we go after them.
And in case you didn't know, and this may come as a surprise, everybody pays to operate in Mexico. Everybody. You may not talk to the cartel, Mr. Cartel guy, but I guarantee you, when you're paying those fees to the customs, and that gets distributed to the custom, the corrupt, maybe the boss and the boss's boss, and the cartel, everybody pays. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have some recommendations regarding the trucks, the cargo trucks? Sometimes we have the bus for the cargo, and also a vehicle transporting the bus. Do you have some recommendations
So you're saying the cargo is being followed by another guy, one of you?
Your security.
Yeah, well, in that case, you can have like the ones that I've seen, they have a camera in the truck, and maybe you could consider using a service like the panic button or something to use it to save, because if you're doing that, you're going to be attracting attention.
What kind of merchandise do you have? Several, but high value. I take it.
Because if they get interdicted, if they stop them, what are you guys going to do? There's nothing you can do. So it's best to, if they're going to take it, take it. It's not, you know, the life of your employee is more. So I don't think. I mean, do you think it's necessary to be having a car behind the?
It does help. It does help.
You know, he's
Well,
boss.
what we do is we're, as a third party, they call us, a lot of the companies, and we are the ones that report it. So we kind of buffer you as a company, operating company, and that kind of takes the responsibility away from you, and you don't become a target from these cartels. So we do that. And we're also working with Homeland Security, that if we figure something's up with the truck, we call it in, not you. So. Yes.
Is insurance an option to mitigate airport?
Mhm.
Is insurance widely available against this type of
For kidnapping?
No, for trucks.
for trucks?
It is available.
But I think that might be
The solution.
the paper the other day.
I mean, that problem you have is widespread. I mean, we have a lot of those type of clients that we do check with our, again, GPS tracking systems, and we have the availability. If the truck is messed with, we'll know it. And we have a 24-hour command center in McAllen that'll notify us, and then we'll notify CBP. So it alleviates your problem. And if you have Sentry or the Fast Pass or your global entry, it protects you.
No, thank you very much.